Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're checking out a Reanimate Shadow variant, which is an interesting one. Some of you guys asked if I was going to cover a Reanimate Shadow. I was just looking for a list that at least piqued my interest, and after playing against a few opponents running Reanimate Shadow, I thought, why not take a good look for one? I ended up finding one on the Game With tier list, and it was solid enough that I thought I'd give it a go. I think personally I'd probably tweak it a little bit now, but it was good enough, at least on its own, to make good video on. So, obviously, the main core of this deck, other than, of course, the heavy early game, which seems to be a little bit of my issue when I'm playing it, is, of course, to use Crow. Crow gets you the Infernal Crown, which will reanimate a heap of times, getting you things like Tartarus the Tormentor, the Death Mistress, and Steelclad Minotaur. All really good setup cards. Death Mistress is actually one of the cards you'll use a lot to Burial Rite. I like to Burial Rite the Steelclad Minotaur. Actually, usually pretty decent one to do that with. Otherwise, Death Mistress is also a good Burial Rite target. Tartarus isn't bad, although since you can get the Accelerate 1, summon a Tartarus Minotaur, then destroy it, it's its own Burial Rite effect, basically. And you also get Lurking in the Dark, which of course is the 8-drop variant, which I think we can check out here. Here we go. Lurking in the Dark. So that is the 8-drop 3/3, so that usually does fairly well on its own, and keeping a hold of it, since it's very easy to play it out and get another Tartarus, you can easily generate 2 Tartarus off Crow fairly quickly, so I usually don't mind that too much. We are running 1 Angelic Smite to counter things like Portal, and everything else basically supports the early game, so we can get to that mid-late game while having enough Reanimate targets, which is always a great thing. So we are going to get right into this and check it out. So kicking us off for games, we are going up against Blood, so this one can be a little tricky sometimes. Since Blood can be reasonably aggressive, and this deck is reasonably passive, at least up until turn 6/7, where you're throwing down the crown normally, or at least you're hoping to. That's typically going to be your biggest win condition for this deck, otherwise it's just flooding the board as much as you can. This probably isn't going to be the be-all end-all for Reanimate decks either. The changes is definitely going to have a little bit more value. So a good turn 2 play here for me was basically to go for Deadly Dreamer and try and bait out the 2/2. If I don't, Manifest Malice will take it out next turn anyway, which looks to be the route that we're going to go with this. So Manifest Malice, kill off the 1/1, and now we can take out the 1/1s on their own. Then, of course, going into Bone Drone, which is a very good Reanimate target a lot of the time if you're running something. We're really setting up now for the Crow. If I can get Crow out, usually that's what I want to do. Although, in this situation, Cerberus actually becomes a pretty good option. It's really just going to depend on how I want to take this next turn, since of course, I'm not too worried about them getting a mono out yet. This could be a chance for us to go for the Crow play. But Cerberus does have a lot of value here. We can pretty much wipe out no matter what gets played next, which is going to be pretty good. Since Cerberus itself will survive, we've got some healing, some damage, some pings. Really, it does a little bit of everything for us. And since we don't have the Crow's targets up yet for the crown, I guess this is probably going to be our best bet right now. And now they're trying to cripple us with the Azazel. It's definitely going to be the roughest one to deal with now. Especially since I do want to take out as much of this as I can. Luckily, Malice is going to let us do that without any issue. And Death Mistress actually gives us a decent target now. So we can take the draw without any kind of worry. And Fairy might not have been the best choice. I decided to go for Fairy since Buffalo Bones I felt had a little bit more value for me next turn, so that I could take advantage of it that way, but it may not have been the right decision at least. Now though, I really need to do something, and Underworld Air Kawi going to be the one to do it. He gets us 3 damage to the face plus another Bone Drone, so I can't really say no to that. That's too much value. Especially when I am worried, of course, about a potential mono play, especially going into next turn. But now we can at least set up Crown, which is exactly what we're going to be aiming for. But that ended up being, of course, the concede. Obviously not handling the fact that we removed their biggest hitter. Probably setting up for mono, not surprising. So next up, we are going up against a RuneCraft.
Let me take you to the underworld. Watch and learn. Here comes my magic.
RuneCraft, again, lots of variants, like I mentioned in the other videos. So it's a bit hard to always tell what you're coming up against immediately off the bat. They do have the Ann Leader, which is pretty cool. Since I believe that's still not available yet unless you purchase the Mysterio and Friends DVD from Japan. And Buffalo Bones, the only 2-drop I've got to play yet, so may as well go for it. And nothing to see coming out from turn 3. I mean, this is okay. Bone Drone as turn 4 play would probably be alright. That, or I can also go for the Manifest Malice again and just take the swing, but Bone Drone's value I think is a little too high to waste the Malice right now, when I could just play the Bone Drone set up for Cerberus, since we do have that in our hand. This isn't a crazy game, I don't think. It's mostly the fact that we just did so well in our opener, going up against Haroon, that it wasn't too much of a problem to deal with this. Although, I do make a slight error here. So, we get the chance to go for the Cerberus play, which is fine. That's actually a really good one. Cerberus was actually a great play. It means the 1-1 could potentially have traded into both of these without an issue. Unfortunately, I traded Cerberus first, which wasted 2 health on it, so that sucked. I didn't realize it till I'd already hit the attack, so all I could do was just deal with it and move forward. But in the future, I definitely would avoid that and make sure I definitely did the 1-1 trade. Another Solomon though, so that's all 3 Solomons out now. It's pretty harsh, honestly. But they have left me with a very nice board, and I've decided to go all out with it and go for the Bone Drone and the Tartarus. Probably could have went for the Crow and the Tartarus, but Bone Drone felt nice. It's a nice wide board, and obviously that was enough to make them concede, but it makes sense. It's not easy to remove this if you haven't got a good setup as Haroon, so it's not surprising. So unfortunately I didn't manage to pull off any crazy Reanimate plays for this video, which was a little disappointing. I would have liked to have got something a little more good going for you, but a lot of the games I had where those Reanimate plays actually managed to pull off were really severe losses in the end. They didn't really go anywhere, so they weren't really too worth it, although I will mention there was one alright game with Steelclad Minotaur. Once you do get Steelclad Minotaur going with Crown, potentially getting 2 Steelclad Minotaurs followed immediately by Tartarus, nuts. If you can pull that combo off, you're usually in the green every time. So if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, guys, see ya.